We are live.
Yes, we are, finally and again.
So, what's going on? What's new? What's shaking?
Well, life is beautiful here in Mexico, and we've had we've had a little bit of a weather change, so we're in the real what they call the rainy season, which where I live is it only rains at night. So, life is perfect. It's cool, and the weather's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, my side, I'm excited. I'm headed to NASCAR.
Oh,
So,
unbelievable.
I know. It's just so it's fun. And as a lifelong learner, what I love about this even more is I've never really appreciated motorsports until I would say later in life. And now actually learning by being there, learning from those that are in the sport in a total like end to end capacity is really helping me learn the sport from a different lens that I normally don't learn sports in. So that part of it is extremely exciting. And then it also is a great synergy with Success Beyond Game Day. It's just, I'm just pinch me, John. Like, I can't.
Yeah, you're about to get a major professional kind of approach to efficiency and teamwork.
Yeah. And I think,
Unbelievable.
we've talked about this multitude of different times in like different capacities about those you're in relationship with, your inner circle, your tribe versus acquaintance, like, and how people will evolve and go in and out and stuff like that. And I think one of the things that, and I know I've highlighted this to you, is that my inner circle is actually getting smaller, and I'm not upset with it because for a lot of my life, I always wanted to have enough, in the inner circle where I can tap onto different people for different things. But it's less about the quantity, more about the quality of people that are
Hmm.
there now for me. And I'm just so at peace because those that are really encapsulated in that inner circle are really helping me catapult my personal and professional self at such a higher level that it actually is helping me scale every aspect of my life better than having more people with little pieces of access in different places. I think it's a pretty important thing to talk about because I know we hear people say, quality over quantity, but like what does that really mean? And like, maybe you can help me break down how now all of a sudden it feels like I'm more at peace with the quality side of things, less about the quantity of people within it.
Yeah, I think it's a function of maturation. You're clearly growing up in uh, your social maturity, shall we say? So there's a set of distinctions that happen at the kind of the upper level of effectiveness of leadership
Mm-hmm.
that are and the it's it distinguish two things are distinct from each other. One is this is all in the area of relationships, and then the subset of relationships is strong ties versus weak ties. So strong ties versus weak ties. So uh, you're beginning to actually experience the uh, the power of weak tie relationships. So let me say what I mean by that. Strong tie relationships are like your inner circle. It's like if you live in a small village, everybody knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows everything about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows their history. They know their family. They know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in a strong tie relationship, like your family, and like the little maybe the block you live on or the small village you live in, the fundamental distinction is security and safety. So as you're growing up, you want to grow up inside of a secure and safe ecology or environment. So you grow up inside of strong tie relationships. That's why it's a good idea to, grow up and then have friends from a long time. You probably have friends from when you were 3 years old or 7 years old, something like that. Those are strong tie relationships, secure, safe, always great. The only thing about it is strong tie relationships, there's never or very seldom any new information comes into it. So you don't grow. So beyond a certain point, getting to a point where you're able to stand on your own 2 feet and then you start reaching out and everything, then you start developing what they call weak tie relationships. A weak tie relationship is with someone where you know the person. And what it does is in knowing the person, it gives you access to their tribe. It gives you access to their resources. It gives you access to everything. And it's how smart people leverage themselves. What they do is they have a strong tie relationship, which is all about security. And then they have a large weak tie kind of a community that is really about growth and development and really becoming something new. So if you're interested in something, in learning something, in capturing something, you go into a weak tie relationship. How this commonly happens without our knowing it is you go to kindergarten and you go to school and you're going to school with some of the kids you went to kindergarten with. Then you go to junior high or middle school and you're going with the kids that you knew already in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And then you get into high school and you knew the kids that were in middle school. And so you grow up. So all the way through high school, you have a strong tie relationship for most people. Not for everybody, but for most people. And then you decide to go to university. And when you go to university, whether you go away or whether you go in your local town, you go, all of a sudden you're in weak tie relationships. Maybe you get invested in you see a sorority that you would like to belong to, or you're independent, but you meet people in the philosophy department or in the math department or in the PE department. And what they do is they lead you to their tribe. They lead you to the benefit and give you access to the resources in their world as you have spent a lifetime up till around 18 years old learning how to form the kind of relationships.
Yep.
So the important thing is in the strong tie world is that you learn how to become a person that people want to play with. That attracts people to you. And then you go out into the world and you can, now knowing that you're a person that people want to play with by nature, now you look and see, well, what am I interested in? I'm interested in automobiles. I'm interested in history. I'm interested in mechanical engineering. And you go into those communities and you form weak tie relationships with people that are in those, and they open up their world for you so that you can grow and develop in that area. So that's what's happening with you. You have developed yourself as a person who people want to play with. So you get an A for strong ties. And now you are out in the world and you're, like you say, you've never really paid much attention to motorsports. Now you're going over into motorsports. And since you're a person that people want to play with, they're going to open up their world to you. Those are going to be weak ties. But
yeah, I think what's cool about that too, if we expand on it, is cueing into when weak tie relationships are happening, right? And actually knowing that it's happening. And one of the things that I've been hearing a lot more recently is, well, I believe in you, the person, so I'm going to open up my Rolodex of network to you. And that's happened a multitude of times now. And I honor that, I respect that, but I also am very keenly aware of what that means. And I'm paying attention to it more. And I'm showing up as my authentic self. And as I'm evolving, right, I'm still who I am, but I'm living out through my inner being out instead of just the reputation side of how I started a lot of my strong ties, because I was I felt that I was always doing things for other people to make sure they had a good perception of me, that I went above and beyond for trust. I did all that more like adolescent way of approaching relationships, like we've talked about in the past. And now I'm at such a intersection of merit, but understanding merit across a multitude of my relationships. And as we drive to a more granular level of conversation here that's more mature, now it's really talking about the weak ties that are really opening up that rolodex of opportunities and pathways that I can parallel path and not have to be, friends with 100 million people, but have the critical few that really afford me the opportunity for the scalability side of it to empower 1 billion athletes, which is my declaration.
Yeah, you see, that's so you're doing it so that insight is exactly accurate. So the thing about it is that it's not who you know, but it's who you know that who they know,
Mm-hmm.
and who they know and who they know, because
Mm-hmm.
you are you know this this idea of 6 degrees of separation. I'm sure you're aware of that,
Yes.
where you're never more than six introductions away from anyone on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that's a weak tie conversation,
Yep.
and that somebody that they are a weak tie and they open up their community and they have tons of weak ties.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you really want. You want to have weak tie relationships with people who have tons of weak ties
Yeah.
themselves, so that they can actually move you to the place where
Yep.
you really want to be.
Yeah, and let's build
And they
on
will
that. Let's
get you eventually to
Yeah.
who you want to know.
Yeah, so let's build on that, right? So last week, we had some service issues. I'm working on trying to publish that out, but I want to go over that real quick because I think it really is a great introduction into understanding how you can be open to receive weak link relationships, because a lot of times we think we're ready, we think we expand to include, but in reality there are inner things that are happening that are actually blocking you. And I think that's an important consideration as we think about what are the opportunity sets in front of us, right? Strong and weak link kind of relationships, but how can you expand to include and open to receive? So I want to go over a couple things you said, and then we can break down each of them, John, if you're cool with that, because I really think it's powerful and it really can help every person in different ways that are in different parts of this process. You cool?
Okay. No, go right ahead.
Okay, so you talked about, kind of, I don't know if we want to say levels or distinctions, but let's just call it 4 levels. Okay. And you talked about the concept of noticing, right? What works and what doesn't work. Right. And that's the surface level. It's like you don't know what you don't know, but what's working and what doesn't work for someone, right? And that's very important before you ever progress to the next piece, which is very difficult, and it's all around disassociation, right? Where are you addicted, and let go? Because a lot of times that trauma or that trigger is something that actually becomes comfortable because it's all you've ever known. That doesn't mean you should always do it, right? And it's not it doesn't just mean childhood trauma. It could be like you gave an example of cigarette smoking, right? You're addicted to something. You clearly know that it doesn't work, it's not good for you, right? But you have to make that noticing distinction and then go to the disassociation piece. The third piece that you had, which I really like, is around inventory, declaring, innovating, right? Transcend and build a design. So, hey, what works, what doesn't work? What am I noticing? Then what am I disassociating myself from to get away from that addiction and let go, right? And then, okay, now that I have done those things, what's my inventory? What am I innovating? What design am I building around to drive me to reintegrate, which is the fourth piece, which is talking to others who know and educate you. So I think this is pretty important because what I have realized about myself was I was living for the external world for so long in my life that I wasn't working on my inner self. And I was still having a lot of great results. But what I started to realize were if I simplified a couple of things interiorly, it really, really would unlock me to be able to disassociate from some of those things that I held on to, which then opened myself to building a design of who I am supposed to be and stepping into my capacity of greatness to ultimately where I'm at right now, which is reintegrating, which is now affording me a true opportunity to be able to develop those weak link relationships. So I feel like this all really goes together. And I wanted to go over that because
Yeah,
it's not just a
it
day and night thing.
definitely, yeah, it definitely does tie together. And then I want to kind of go back around now to the front end of that conversation. So you have a grand design to your life or you don't. But if you do, you have a grand design to your life as a human being. In my case, I have just declared that I want to live my life as a work of art.
Mhm.
Okay, now yours is something grand and big like that. But
Mhm.
let's say that it was something like a work of art. That's the grand overall mega context of life. Inside of that, I have areas of concern. I'm going to call them subcontexts. Okay. And inside of that, I have subcontexts of my health. You had the question about smoking, for
Mhm.
example. And notice what doesn't work for you, disassociate, transcend, and then reintegrate back into your community.
Mhm.
Probably reintegrate back into a community of non-smokers,
Yes.
actually. But that's inside of a subcontext of life called health. So one of the initial contexts, I'm going to give you 5 major contexts of life. Okay, one is health.
Mhm.
A second one is what are you passionate about? Like what really lights you up, turns you on, makes you happy. Like in your case, it's grounded in sports somehow.
Mhm.
Okay, you're passionate about being active.
Mhm.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's only softball. That's where you got started, and that's where you have your strong community. But that is now leading you to motorsports, and you probably would like skiing if you don't ski,
Mhm.
and or water skiing for sure. And so you like being active, so active. So it's what you're passionate about. So you got health and you got passion. The third thing is about relations or relationships, like the quality of your relationships. How do you build the quality of your relationships? This really starts to get at how do I now start to separate out from going from strong suits or links to weak ties.
Yeah.
Then in that is a question of partnership.
Mhm.
So the first one is relationship, and then a subset of that, but the third, fourth thing is relationship. And that's in the area of discovery.
Mhm.
So I have a relationship with you, and we've known each other for a certain period of time. But every single time that I see you again in our partnership, in our relationship, I'm discovering something new.
Mhm.
So partnership and relationship uh, uh, is about discovery.
Mhm.
Okay. And inside of that, one of the things that you use is your intuition a lot. So
Mhm.
you learn to trust your intuition. And then the fifth kind of subset area is contribution. Where do you give back?
Hold on,
Where
hold
do
on
you
though.
pay
Okay,
it
so
forward?
maybe I missed something. So we've got the health, we've got the passion, we've got
Passion.
the relations and relationship,
Right.
and then I don't have 4. I thought partnership
Well,
was
four is discovery,
oh,
and what falls inside of four is partnership.
okay, so within discovery, okay, because it's interesting because the way you said it, the way I internalized it, right, was that within relations and relationship, you have kind of that subcontext of partnership that lives within that, which then ties to discovery, which is rooted in intuition. So
Yeah, that is the way that I said it. So you heard it correctly, but I want to actually separate it out a little
got
bit.
it. Okay.
And
So
here's
discovery is
why.
core.
Here's why. We have many relationships in life,
Yeah.
most of them weak ties.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them we have an intention to move into our inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we become engaged to someone, we want to marry them, or we have an intimate relationship with them. So in order to do that, to have that placed in relationship is one thing, but to actually move that consciously into the field of discovery is a whole new opening for those close tie relationships.
Got it.
So I make that a fourth. I
No,
make
that
that a
makes sense
fourth
now.
thing.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. So discovery and then contribution.
Contribution. That makes
You
sense.
know, who do you touch? How are you paying back? How are you paying forward?
Yeah. Wow.
So
I like
now all of that is inside of the gigantic context. In my case, you make it up for yourself. But the one that I make up for myself is living life as a work of art.
that. Mhm.
Now we've got, now the major deal is this. There are 3 or 4 of them. The first one is integrity. Mostly when people hear the word integrity, they think, okay, do what you say and say what you do.
Mhm.
But that isn't what integrity means. Integrity comes from a Latin term, and it was about engineering. And integrity had to do with the Romans were builders. They built roads and
Foundation.
bridges. And so integrity was tested by when they would build a bridge. They
Foundation.
would put the architect and the contractors underneath the bridge and march the animals and the people across it. So it means that. What it really means when related to you and me is whole and complete and lacking nothing. The purpose of your strong tie relationships all the way through high school is to get you to a point that you realize for yourself that you are a person of integrity, which is to say you are whole and complete and lacking nothing.
Got it.
Then we send you out into the world to form your weak tie relationships
So
and open up new worlds.
let me pause you there, because that makes a whole lot of sense, because for a very long time, although I was perceived as a popular one,
Uh-huh.
I never truly felt whole, complete, and lacking nothing to be able to truly leverage weak link relationships to the degree I am at now, which is
Yes.
interesting because when you go to college, to your point, right, you are not under your parents' roof for the most part, right? Like you're discovering who you are, you're testing things, all that. But just because you have a lot of weak link relationships around you doesn't mean you're actually leading it with integrity. You're probably doing it very surface level because you don't know who you are. A lot
You
of
have no idea.
so it's
That's the
fascinating.
test.
Yeah, that's a fascinating component because I really feel at this point in my life, right, at 36 years old, that I'm really now understanding the true definition of integrity and living out through that, which is now giving me my own personal inner license to truly embrace those weak link relationships, which is why things are happening.
Yes. So now you have a new mantra that we're going to do, and which is integrity is the access to leadership. You really can't lead people until you are whole and complete and lacking nothing, and you know it, and you know that you know it.
Yeah.
And who people want to follow is they want to follow someone who's a person of integrity. They will say it that way, which is whole and complete and lacking nothing.
I like
So integrity is a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got integrity handled, you have 2 other things that are that goes without saying that you got handled. You've got responsibility,
Mhm.
That is, you are at cause in the matter of things. Who's responsible for this doesn't mean who gets the credit. Who's
I like
responsible
that.
for this doesn't mean who gets the blame.
Mhm.
It means who caused this, who is at cause in this. So responsibility and accountability come along with integrity. And then the third is you begin to master the distinctions of communication, of speaking and listening. Or more said, more properly, listening and then speaking, because communication, real communication, begins with listening and ends with speaking.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I
So
mean,
that's
you
where
really
you
got
learn how to do the things like, as a leader, to start telling stories and telling stories that are stories of integrity that empower people to actually become aware of their own power, their own integrity, their own abilities.
yeah, and it's fascinating you say that. So I had a couple of athletes and they said it differently, but it all resonated the same,
Mhm,
the
mhm,
takeaway. And they said, it's funny because you can talk to all of us, but I feel like you're talking directly to me.
mhm, mhm.
And for me, that was powerful because I am really working on the art of storytelling. And we talk about the 3-act play and the values embedded aspect of it. And I live it. And what I'm doing is I'm actually honing that in a little bit more so I can truly communicate based off of what I really am hearing from athletes in terms of needs and in terms of different things and able to connect so they can internalize and take what they need from it at whatever stage they're at. Because the biggest thing for me is meeting others where they're at. John, everyone's going to be at the level I'm at right now. I have put dedicated time and work, and I have a mentor in you that helps me further establish that at a very high level. Some people don't have that, right? So it's interesting because when I am storytelling, when I am communicating, I have different ways people learn. I have different ways people approach different backgrounds of how someone was raised, but our common language is sports. So me talking through my values embedded storytelling through the framework of sports has really been the differentiator to then hit on integrity, responsibility, right? To kind of hit on noticing, disassociation, being able to declare and innovate, build design and reintegrate, talk about health, being passionate, relationships, discovery. We're hitting all of these things, but now I think what an opportunity to be able to structurally break it out and pay attention to the mindfulness of every aspect and stage of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good, Sammy. The thing about it is that management is additive. There's always more rules, more rules, more
Oh yeah.
rules, more rules, and we get thrown and we get pulled to that.
Mhm.
Leadership is subtractive. It gets simpler and more elegant as we go along. The two things that are really kind of at the heart of the matter of leadership are integrity and then sharing. Because what you're sharing is your experience of integrity, where it benefits you and where it can benefit others. That's what a story is.
Yeah.
A story is really a designed kind of conversation about how integrity, which is to say values, will benefit and further someone else. So if you're, like you said, I live it. So if you're doing that, that's integrity. You're living a life of integrity. And then you're sharing effectively. You're doing the whole job of leadership right there.
And continuing to leverage those weak links to be able to stand
Well, yeah,
out.
there's all that to learn and be aware, but the less that you are kind of like trying to take in
Yeah.
and try and hit every point, the more it gives you room to, okay, when it's important, and oh, I see I'm in discovery now. Oh, I see I'm in contribution now. Oh, I see. Okay, this is a conversation that is all organized around health and well-being, that
Yeah,
sort of
I
thing.
mean, and it's interesting, and I'm definitely going to be incorporating this and all the programming, because one of the things that I'm starting to integrate is the concept of true transformation, and how most people think of what transformation is not. And, the concept of
No,
the
no.
aha, the duh, right? The Shazam, athletes are starting to understand the words and
Yeah.
randomly send me a message that says, aha. And I'm like, bingo, like we're there, And it was like, you had said that to me one time that, hey, when I'm in a 2-3 day seminar, day 2, people are coming back in after I give them their homework. So, do certain things with their family. Like they come in and they say these things, and they actually are talking the talk. They're learning how to walk the walk, but they're actually talking it. That's step 1 to integrate within themselves, because they've noticed, they've disassociated with certain things that aren't working. They're building a design, and they're reintroducing, like it's just so it's so organic, and it's so
Yes.
refreshing, because it's like those 1% wins when someone just says aha, or like I posted something that I didn't even say, but it resonated with someone and they're like, duh, I needed to see this.
Yes.
you know so
Yes.
I wanted to share that with you, because that's something that I have integrated, that you taught me, that is a common language where athletes communicate with me in that way, and will always have the license to do so, so I can always see where they're at in that state.
And it's totally universal. I'll just share with you something that happened in the last week.
Okay.
I have a partner who is from Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Turkey, and he has a number of partners that are weak links for me.
Okay.
Okay, and one of them is a guy named Tahir, who is probably one of the most famous psychologists in from the Soviet Union and Uzbekistan and Central Asia. And he said he was talking to Tahir, and Tahir said, "There's only 2 things: aha and wow."
That's that had to hit you right here.
It's universal. It's totally universal. And all I could do was laugh about it, because really, 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 when you get down to it, when you're talking about leadership, it does get down to there's only a few things that you really need to have mastered, but you need to master them with integrity. And then you need to learn how to share them effectively.
Well, yeah, and I think what happens a lot, right, as we kind of like bring this all together, like on the corporate capacity, your professional capacity, we put process for process sake. We try to complicate, right? We try to put multiple levels of authority in place. We don't simplify. We streamline before we simplify. But if we simplify, we wouldn't need to streamline, right? So there's a little bit of
Right.
that happening. And then when we actually break down the kind of ecology and ecosystem of what the heart of leadership is, it's actually not complicated to
No,
understand what
no,
is encapsulated in it. Now,
no.
the art of practicing and living through it every day may not always be the easiest, because things happen, and that I can appreciate. But at the same time, it's simple. We choose our hard. So when you're in your professional capacity, just going with the flow of, oh well, I'm going to put the band-aid on the bruise instead of actually letting it heal, or I'm going to put lipstick on the pig. Look, a pig is a pig, like, why are you putting a lipstick on a pig? Like, deal with the fact that the pig is there, and it may not be the easiest to overcome it. And guess what? Have the freaking courage and integrity to build, right? Which then ultimately gives you a responsibility, to your point, of the cause of the matter. And this resonates so well, because then we actually start to then go into the realm of true communication and listening before we speak, versus everyone being a cook in the kitchen. So I wanted to highlight that, because this resonates extremely well for me on the professional capacity. And I always was the one that was, that's the pig. I don't want to put lipstick on the pig. I want to do hard things. I want to handle that. But where I wasn't as, let's say, ripe, maybe it's the right word, is my ability to communicate in such a way where I was listening before I was speaking. So I was speaking before I was listening. And
Mhm.
I had the idea of building a design, but it wasn't always I have to do it. You also need to tribe it out and get the tribal language, getting everybody bought in to ultimately move it. Not because it's easy thing to do, it's because it's the right thing to do, which will cause the ultimate change to change the dynamic and culture.
This is really good. I think when we meet again, say next week, we could talk about something you just brought up, which is the tribal language.
Yeah, I like that. So we'll do tribal language next week. But yeah, I mean, John, this really kind of resonates. I've lived through that. And what's interesting about it is as we go through the different stages of noticing disassociation, inventory declaring, building design, and reintegrating, I was at different levels in different parts of my life for it. And sometimes when you're in a situation personally where you don't know what you don't know, you're unconsciously incompetent, and then professionally you're darn near consciously competent, you feel off. But it's not that you're off, you're at different stages and different components of your life,
Yeah,
and you have to be able to handle those differences. And
yeah.
I had a hard time
It
doing it,
is
so I
it is literally an integrity issue. It is really getting to that point where you're whole and complete and lacking nothing, and then you can communicate it effectively.
bingo, bingo. And that's why I ended up compartmentalizing like an athlete would.
Yep, yep,
And not just compartmentalizing, but putting it so far to the back that I was putting band-aids on my personal self, not on my professional self, but so rooted in 50 band-aids deep
yeah,
that I never dealt with that part of myself until I started getting physically ill when I would take
yeah.
a couple days
Well,
off.
you were neglecting the inner part of who you were. That's another thing that we
Right?
want to be talking about is like dealing with the inner or the moral part of who you are.
Yeah. So yeah, I would love to explore this further with you
Yes.
next week, and really kind of build upon this because
Yeah.
this can help everybody.
I
And
think this is that. And then I want to give you one more subject here that I think we can put down for the future, which is life as a moral, ethical conversation.
life as a moral, ethical conversation. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, this will be very useful for people.
Okay. No, I like it. I like it.
Like this, you're not only resonate that it's resonating for you, but I'm telling you, it resonates for everyone who has grown to the point where they are now standing on the edge of their leadership capability.
I love it. So I'm going to recap a couple things before we leave. The heart of leadership is all around integrity and sharing.
Mm-hmm,
And our access to leadership is rooted in integrity from building, right? Whole, complete, and lacking nothing.
mm-hmm,
Responsibility, which is the cause of the matter. Who is
mm-hmm,
that cause, right?
mm-hmm,
And communication, listening, and then speaking. And
mm-hmm.
more so, when we use your example of living life like a work of art, as you do, and as you've put out into the world, it's all around health, passion, right? Like what lights you up, relationships, building the quality of relationships, which also has segment into partnership, and also lives within your fourth, which is discovery, and all around intuition, right? And then your fifth, which is contribution, who you touch. And wow, what a conversation, because we really need to evolve and understand that our strong ties, we may be comfortable with them, but remember, I think you said something very, very spot on to me, which I didn't learn until recent, is you don't get a lot of new info from them. And our weak ties are one of the areas where we get to get access to other people's tribes and really kind of grow and develop. So I think it's an encapsulation of both.
Very good.
Did I summarize it? Did I do
I
okay?
thought you did. Yeah, you did a great job of summary.
All right. Well, as ever, you're all right over there?
Yeah, I'm looking for something that I want to show you in a minute, but I don't see it. I put it in a safe place, I think.
Well, you can text it to me later.
Yeah, no, no, it's something you're going to like. So anyway, no, I think well done, well done.
No, I appreciate this. This conversation is a very big one. And a lot of times we don't just pause and like break down the relationship side of the game. We talk about all the tools for, you know, when we're talking about be do have, like the do and the have, right? What are the things you need to do to get the outcomes that you want? But like the be, this hits a lot of the be.
It does.
It really hits a lot of the B, and that's why I think a lot of people struggle with, they know where they want to go, but they don't know who they are now.
Yeah, well, that was why I was saying that during the time that you're growing up, the key job that you to learn how to do all the way from kindergarten, elementary school, junior high, and high school is to learn how to be a person that people want to play with.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, as ever, always inspired, always left thinking, always learning with you, always building something together. And
Yeah,
what better to do on a Thursday?
always a discovery. Thursday, by the way, is Discovery Day.
I know. I mean, what are we building together? Discovery and all about intuition. And as I learned from you, the color of purple.
Yep, yep.
I'm a good student. Don't
Yeah,
call it
you
me,
got
John.
that.
I'm a good
Yes, as a
student.
Purple Feather Day. Exactly.
All right. As ever, always appreciate you, my friends.
Okay, ciao. See you in a week.
Bye.